Where does true power lie? Is it in the force of our actions, or is it in the stillness of our presence? What if the greatest strength is the courage to do nothing, to remain still, yet hold steadfast in conviction? These questions, paradoxical in nature, guide us today as we turn to the life of a man whose profound belief in nonviolence reshaped the world. But in his stillness, was there a deeper movement? What if this doing nothing was, in fact, the most radical act of all? Mahatma Gandhi, a man whose silence spoke louder than any weapon. Gandhi is known for many things: for leading India to independence, for his commitment to truth and nonviolence, for being a man of simple living and high thinking. But what does his philosophy of nonviolence mean for us today, in a world that seems to worship action and conflict? Nonviolence, for Gandhi, was not simply the absence of physical violence. It was a deeper, more profound form of resistance. It was the idea that the mind and spirit could transcend the violence that surrounds us. It was a choice to not harm others, but also a call to examine the violence within ourselves, the judgments, the grudges, the divisions we hold in our hearts. Gandhi's approach was not passive. In fact, it required an incredible strength of character, one that often meant standing alone. To follow this path was not to turn away from the world but to see it clearly, without the distortion of anger, fear, or hatred. Today, we reflect on this philosophy, what it means to live without violence, and how it might change the way we see ourselves and the world. Nonviolence, or ahimsa, as it is called in Sanskrit, can seem simple on the surface, but it is a deeply transformative practice. Gandhi's version of nonviolence was not just about avoiding physical harm. It was about looking within, understanding that true peace starts from within the individual. The violence we inflict on the world is often just a reflection of the turmoil we carry inside ourselves. Think about the last time you felt anger rising in you. Perhaps it was in a conversation with a friend, a colleague, or someone you love. Did you lash out? Did you close yourself off, build walls between you and the other? Or did you pause? Did you take a moment to breathe and reflect on what was really at stake? Gandhi taught that it is not enough to simply avoid harming others. To truly live a life of nonviolence requires us to examine the violence within us. It asks us to challenge our judgments, our assumptions, and our reactions. It asks us to hold space for the humanity in others, especially those we disagree with. This was not a denial of conflict but a reimagining of how we engage with it. Gandhi's nonviolence was not about passivity or inaction. It was about engaging with the world in a way that held the potential for true transformation. When we choose nonviolence, we acknowledge the interconnectedness of all beings and recognize that our actions, however small, have a ripple effect. Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence resonates deeply with both Eastern and Western philosophies, especially when viewed through the lens of awareness and consciousness. In Buddhism, there is a concept known as right action, part of the Noble Eightfold Path. This path teaches that true peace arises not from external circumstances but from a deep internal state of awareness. In this state, we recognize the impermanence of all things, including our anger and desires. We begin to see that clinging to these emotions only brings suffering, both to ourselves and others. This echoes Gandhi's own teachings. For Gandhi, nonviolence was not about suppressing anger but about understanding it, witnessing it without identification, and allowing it to dissolve. It was about developing an inner clarity, where actions stem from a place of love and truth rather than fear or selfishness. In Western philosophy, thinkers like Socrates and later, Martin Luther King Jr., took inspiration from Gandhi's methods. Socrates questioned assumptions to uncover truth, often revealing the internal contradictions in the beliefs of others. Gandhi's method of nonviolent resistance worked in a similar way. By refusing to engage in violence, he forced the world to confront its own contradictions, to look at injustice without turning a blind eye. Neuroscience, too, has begun to explore the concept of nonviolence in terms of the mind. Studies show that when we experience anger or fear, certain parts of the brain are activated, the amygdala, the part that governs our fight or flight response. But by practicing mindfulness, we can activate the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning and empathy. This shift, much like Gandhi's teachings, is about transforming our reactions, not suppressing them, but learning to witness them, to create space for a more thoughtful response. So, what does this mean for us today? In our world of constant distractions, polarized opinions, and endless conflict, how can we live the principle of nonviolence? How can we choose peace in our everyday lives? It begins with awareness. In every moment, we have the choice to pause, to breathe, to not immediately react to the pressures of the world, but to respond from a place of reflection. This doesn't mean ignoring injustice, but it does mean refusing to perpetuate the cycle of harm. It means finding the courage to speak truth, not from anger but from compassion. It means acknowledging that our thoughts and feelings are not who we are, they are simply passing experiences, like clouds in the sky. When we choose nonviolence, we choose to step outside the narrative of us versus them. We move beyond the surface differences and recognize the shared humanity in each other. It doesn't mean we agree on everything. It simply means that we honor the dignity of the other. We listen. We respect. This, perhaps, is the true power of nonviolence. Its ability to shift how we see ourselves and the world. In the stillness of nonviolence, we find a profound clarity. We see that the external world is a reflection of the internal, and by transforming ourselves, we can begin to transform the world. And so, we return to our question: where does true power lie? Is it in our actions, in the things we do, in the force we exert? Or is it in the stillness, in the pause before the reaction, in the calm that underlies all? Perhaps, true strength lies not in the effort we make, but in the presence we bring to each moment. Gandhi taught us that nonviolence is not a passive retreat from the world, but an active engagement in its deepest truths. And in this engagement, we find a quiet revolution, not of the body, but of the mind. How can you live this philosophy today? Where in your life can you choose peace, where you once chose conflict? And what would it be like, if, in this moment, you allowed yourself to simply be, without needing to fight or defend, just being present with what is? Thank you for listening. This has been What We Are, a space for quiet reflection and timeless truth. Until next time, stay awake to the subtle power of nonviolence, and let it guide you through the noise of the world.